Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Doctor. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest. It's just a little bit rainy, and we are loving it because it is not 90 degrees out anymore. If you guys are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and today we're going to talk about everything you need to know for Final Fantasy Tactics 2 pulling. That's going to be going over all of the banners, the duration of the pulls, and of course, whether or not you are going to be able to get Cid and Ramza by the end of the event. First, we're going to pull up the shard chart here, and this shard chart is going to have the estimated Visior cost of every single unit once you have successfully pulled them. So it is not going to include the Visior cost from actually trying to pull the units. In addition, there may be some changes to global that I am not aware of that might not be on here. So let's talk about all the different units and the shards that you're going to be able to get from them. For Mustadio, you're going to be able to get 40 shards from the bingo, 60 from the shop, and 100 from Final Fantasy Tactics tokens. Agrias, you're going to be able to get 180 from the shop, so 120 for free Visior, and then there was a 2k paid JP bundle that had 40 Agrias shards in it as well, so you'll be able to get 180 from the shop and 80 from Final Fantasy Tactics tokens. And then of course we have Delita, you're going to be able to get 120 from the shop and 80 from Final Fantasy Tactics tokens. And then Ramza and Cid are a little bit of different creatures. Ramza, you're going to be able to get 40 from Final Fantasy Tactics tokens. And then Ramza is actually going to have a guaranteed pulled step up for 6k. So if you are planning on pulling for Ramza, make sure to keep that in mind because that is essentially going to lower the cost of acquiring Ramza, which could be very beneficial for you. Cid is going to have 40 Final Fantasy Tactics tokens. And then the Reed Pipe is going to have 75 tokens in the shop. And then tokens. I'm going to keep saying tokens. Shards in the shop. And then Red Chocobo is going to have 60 in the shop. So in order to MLB Mustadio, you need 300 shards for 9k Visior. In order to MLB Agrias, you need 340 shards for 17k Visior. In order to MLB Delita, you need 400 shards for 20k Visior. In order to MLB Ramza, and keep in mind this is week 2 because Ramza and Cid's banners came out in week 2 of the Final Fantasy Tactics event, you're going to need 560 shards or 28k Visior. Same with Cid, you're going to need 568 shards and 28k Visior. For Reed Pipe, you're going to need 200 shards or 10k Visior. And for Red Chocobo, you're going to need 160 shards or 4,800 Visior. So if you don't have any of these units and you are starting fresh and you want all of them, you are going to need a total of 116,000 Visior. If you only need the Final Fantasy Tactics 2 units, and if you have successfully pulled every single unit, you're only going to need 60k Visior. That's if you were successful in pulling every single unit and you didn't invest the cost. And that is not including, of course, like Ramza and Cid, right? Because this is the Final Fantasy Tactics Part 2 event. As far as a note here, Scion and Beolv shards were not registered on any of the websites I could find for purchase. I did see a couple messages saying that the Scion and Beolv card did have 25 purchasable shards in shop, which would seem to line up with Ramza and Cid in terms of having like one bundle that was available. The Scion and Beolv card is going to be featured on the week 2 banners, which we'll talk about in a minute with Cid and Ramza. Though I do believe you are also going to be able to exchange the tokens for those banner pulls in the banner shop in order to get Scion and Beolv cards. So if you are looking to max out your Scion card, this is going to be the way to do it, and it'll probably be pulling on the Cid or the Ramza banner. Now, let's talk about some of the summons. So, Final Fantasy Tactics 2 is spread out across 3 weeks, basically. So, the first week you have a banner for Agrias and you have a banner for Delita. And then you're also, in the first week, going to get access to the 4UR guaranteed summon for 2k paid Visior. Of course, it's going to have banner units on it, but their rates are not going to be enhanced. I would definitely recommend pulling on this. It's going to be a great opportunity, and I think for a lot of people, this is one of the best ways to acquire guaranteed UR units, and you do have a shot at getting at the banner units, even though it is not fully guaranteed. Now, for the first week, we are going to have Agrias and Delita featured. Now, I couldn't find information if these banners go for 2 weeks. I believe they do, like most standard banners. And then starting the second week, normally what would happen is we have a week where we would get like Agrias and Delita, and then the following week we would have like Stern and like Venera or something. Well, starting the second week is when we get sort of like a banner for Ramza and Sid. And there's a little bit of confusion on this because it is a 3-week event, and the Ramza and Sid banner supposedly comes out the week after Agrias and Delita and goes for 2 weeks as well. So I'm not sure if we're going to have the same duration of event in global, but that does appear to be what's happening, and there wasn't specific timelines on the step-ups. So the guaranteed Ramza step-up, it wasn't clear to me if that was coming out the second week or the first week, but either way, there is a guaranteed Ramza step-up, so keep that in mind. And then for the Final Fantasy 3-step step-up with guaranteed Final Fantasy Tactics unit, so that's going to be a 3 2K paid Visior step-up, and then at the end, you're going to be guaranteed a Final Fantasy Tactics unit, so that could be Sid, Delita, Ramza, or Agrias. So again, that could be a very powerful banner to pull on. Arguably, pulling on that gives you a higher percentage chance of getting a unit than actually pulling on the direct rate up banner, because you're getting a basically 1 in 4 chance to get the unit that you want. So of course, there's a lot of really cool paid banners here, and the question that I'm getting a lot is mostly pertaining to Sid and Ramza. So what are they doing with Sid and Ramza? So Sid and Ramza are probably going to be coming out the second week, and they'll be going through the second and third week of the event. Now, they are going to be featured on separate banners, and the Sign of Beowulf card was on their bannered pulls. And you're going to have a Ramza shop and a Sid shop, and I'm wondering whether or not Sign of Beowulf will be in both shops or only in one shop. You are going to want to keep that in mind, and that is going to be something you want to check if that's an important card for you before you actually start pulling for any of them. Now, the I Want Sid or Ramza section, right? So there is sort of a way we can talk about whether it's reasonable for you to pursue Sid or Ramza. So here's how we're going to think about it. We know that they have a base amount of 40 shards that they get. We know that they need a total of 600 shards. You can proc the Whimsy shop daily 8 times. So for the first featured week, you're guaranteed when you proc a Whimsy shop to get 3 shards of the banner units that you've pulled. So if you can proc 8 times for 8 days, which most of us are not capable of doing, but if you can, that means you could get theoretically 192 shards for Sid or Ramza, basically by popping Whimsy shop over 8 days. Now, this is technically a 16-day banner, so you're not guaranteed Sid or Ramza during the second week, but your Whimsy shop still has a chance to proc those 5 and 10 bundles from Sid or Ramza. So things to keep in mind here. So assuming that you do get all 192 shards from Whimsy shop, which you probably won't, but most of you guys that are pulling for Sid or Ramza probably have a base amount of shards already. The number of shards with 192 Whimsy shop shards to MLB Sid or Ramza is 368. So the number of days you would have to purchase those shards is 16, right? Because you have to count the day of the event, because you basically go from Tuesday to Tuesday. And then the number of shards per day you would need is 23. So there are a couple notes here and a couple caveats. You are competing against another UR unit, since both Ramza and Sid will be featured. That's not necessarily true for the Whimsy shop for the guaranteed 3 if it's going to work as we think it's going to work. But it is going to be a problem if you're trying to pop shards in the shop, or if you are trying to pop shards from, like regular shards from the Whimsy shop. Not only that, if there is another featured banner alongside the second week of Final Fantasy Tactics 2, that would be either if they decided to release Irdura, or if they decided to release like a side banner that was like Sid and, not Sid, like Stern and Venera. You will be competing against them as well in the Whimsy shop. So what we do know, Ramza and Sid banner was present for 2 weeks, and things to think about would be like specialty global bundles that we're going to get. It's quite possible we could be getting special bundles, and of course that Ramza's guaranteed, right? So if you're looking at raw Visior cost, Ramza is of course going to be cheaper. So now we get to kind of the fun part. If you are Pat the Whale, if you're going to fully Kraken out, there are some things to think about, because we do have the exchange shop. So one 2K pull is 5 shards from the exchange shop. So if, let's say, you didn't purchase any shards from the shop, 368 shards needed, so you would need 75.6 pulls, or about 150k Visior, would almost guarantee your ability to get Sid and MLB him. That's without purchasing any shards and only going for the Whimsy shops. Keep in mind also, pulling dupes is a reality and could lower the potential total Visior cost. That would be about $2,500 in Visior if you have to spend all of it purchasing at suboptimal prices. I think the best approach would be to go Whimsy shop and regular shop hard, then whale for the amount of tokens you need on the last day to MLB or Sid and Ramza. I would not recommend going this route. I would think farming the shop, farming Whimsy shop is going to be the way to go. But I know, just like many people out there who had the experience of Sid being like 10 shards away from MLB, and they thought they had no other options on the last day, you do have an option. Go do 2 pulls for 4k Visior, and then go buy those 10 shards from the exchange shop. You do have an option here. So you guys, thank you so much. I hope this pull guide was at least a little bit useful, and I hope you guys are able to help chart out and plan how you're going to pull for Sid, how you're going to pull for Ramza, and how you're going to pull for Agrias or Delita. We will be doing a lot of new content this weekend focused on Final Fantasy Tactics 2, so make sure to look forward to my unit reviews of Delita and Agrias and my comparison of both of them. And you guys, of course, if you are going to buy Visior for the upcoming Final Fantasy Tactics 2 campaign, please use my affiliate link dig.gs/coins or dig.gs/offer. It's one of the best ways to support me and is literally how I make my living doing these videos. If you guys could do that for me, if you could buy those Amazon coins when you buy your Visior, that would really help me out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And of course, drop a comment down in the comment section. Come check us out on stream and have a great rest of your day.